It's 2008 all over again. Just kidding. I know that's probably what some of you want to hear, but the housing market is changing fast. And here are some things that you need to know if you're thinking about hopping into the market. So make sure you watch to the very end because I'm going to break down a few key points and some statistics that have been popping out to me lately that I think you should be aware of. And if this is the first time you're checking out my channel, my name is Seanu Uyehara. I'm an area manager with Geneva Financial, and I created this channel to help you get your mortgage right. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or a seasoned investor looking to grow your real estate portfolio, we're here to help you and give you all the advice you need for purchases, refinances, anywhere in the country. So if you have questions, you can always comment below, or you can feel free to send me an email, and myself will be the one to reach out to you and answer any questions that you might have and point you in the right direction. So the first thing I want to show you is this screenshot that I took from Twitter the other day, and it shows Logan Motoshami, who's from Housing Wire, and you can see here on his slide that he put together that literally all these times over the last nearly 10 years where the media have come out and talked about various reasons why the market is going to crash, and all of these things like shadow inventory, rates going up, vacancies going up, mortgage rates, COVID, forbearances, all these things that led to a potential 2008 repeat. But look at that graph. Look at that graph where you see inventory just literally on a straight decline. This is one of the biggest things that I don't think gets talked about enough because so many people are still betting on the fact that there is going to be a market crash. But if we go back to high school and we talk about economics 101, pure supply and demand, if you have low amounts of supply and high demand, prices will tend to rise, which is what we are still seeing in most parts of the country. I literally just got off the phone today with a client who's relocating to Dallas, Texas, and he told me he went out to go and look at a house on a Friday. It was an off-market property, and as soon as he was leaving the property, there was another lady that was coming to look at the house, which he then found out that she wrote an offer on the property. So the house wasn't even listed for sale, and it's sold to her. So these are just some of the few instances that are happening every single day all across the country that buyers are placing multiple bids on homes. They're willing to pay above asking price, again, like we saw during COVID. So it's not all doom and gloom, despite what the media is telling you and probably social media. Here's another slide that I found online from Altos Research. And you can see, going back all the way to 2015, the U.S. single-family total inventory homes for sale has been on a steady decline ever since then. Again, this is why prices aren't being as affected as we all would hope. Now, because of the 2% and 3% interest rates, you can see here on this graph, during January, July 2020, going into 2021, inventory just was dropping like a cliff. And that's why in a lot of cities across the country, we saw double-digit appreciation that year. 10%, 15%. Some places even had 20+% appreciation in 1 year. So when you have that insane demand because interest rates were so low, the government really created an animal out of the housing market. And we're paying for it today because so many homes across the country are unaffordable to the average person. So if you're a single income earner, it makes it really difficult for you to qualify for a home. However, I still do believe in the housing market. Even though things have gone up, we have to figure out other strategies to be able to get our clients into homes that still make sense. Now, we don't want to stretch your budget. We don't want you to be house poor because that's the last thing we ever want. So don't get that confused. We want to make sure that you're getting into a home that you can comfortably afford your housing payment and you're still going to be successful going forward. But when we see things like this, where inventory is just on a straight decline, it's hard to believe that the housing market's going to crash. So for all of you doomsday people out there, why do you think the housing market's going to crash? In fact, comment below. I'd love to hear your reasons why, because I'm all ears and I'll never say no to an idea. So if you know something or you're speculating on something, I mean, by all means, please tell me what it is, because I'd love to hear other opinions of what people are reasoning as to why the market's going to crash. And now you can see this other graph here by Altos Research that also talks about the fact that there's 72,000 new listings, which is 20% fewer listings this week than last year. That is the other problem that we have in the housing market right now, is that there are tons of buyers, or homeowners, that own property at 2%, 3% interest rates, maybe even 4%. They have no incentive to sell their house, because why would I sell my house at 2.5% interest to take 6.5%, 7% interest? No one's going to do that. And that's why, as we go into the spring buying season, which is typically the busiest time for all of us in the industry, I don't think we're going to see as many people selling their homes right now, simply because, for that number one reason, they have to be so motivated or have such an insanely good reason to move, to take on a new interest rate for them to want to sell today. Because again, the flip side to that is you could always take out a home equity line of credit, tap into your equity. You could then use that to go buy another property, or you just simply stay put, which means that house would have normally hit the market, doesn't hit the market, which also supports the other slides that I just showed you, showing how inventory is literally just dropping. So I don't think we're going to see an uptick in inventory coming into the summertime unless these bank closures continue to happen and the economy just gets even worse than what it is, which we're still not even technically in a recession, which I feel like we have been, because inflation isn't slowing down, nothing's getting cheaper, and tons of people are getting laid off. In fact, the other day, Facebook just laid off another 10,000 of their employees. And we're already seeing the US government step in with massive bailouts. These bailouts, in my opinion, are probably going to be bigger than what went down in 2008. So let's think about that for a second. The government has been fighting inflation since last year, saying that we need to get it down to 2%. We're making incremental steps to get better, but it's nowhere near where we need it to be. And now with these bank failures, they're starting to print more money. So how does that work? How do they think, if they continue to print billions, trillions of dollars, that we're ever going to get inflation under control? Something's got to break at some point. So if you're thinking about getting into the housing market, the number one thing I would be thinking about is, am I going to have a job? I think that's first and foremost. And I know as obvious as that sounds, but I think you really got to look at that right now. Because if you get into a house, or let's say you're midway through your contract in escrow and all of a sudden you get laid off, you're screwed. You're going to lose your earnest money deposit, and now you're going to be out of a job, and who knows how you're going to pay your bills, or how long will it take you to get back into a position to get a job. It kind of reminds me of 2008, right when I came out of college. I remember trying to find work was so hard because I had a bachelor's degree, but I remember there were people with MBAs, doctorates that couldn't even get jobs because they were overqualified for positions. So if we have a bunch of highly educated, maybe really specialized in the line of work that they're in, like if you're an engineer working at Facebook or some of these other tech companies, where else are you going to work? And there's so many of you that now are looking for jobs. And if everyone else is laying people off or cutting back their staff, it's going to get a lot tougher to find employment, and especially at that type of pay rate. Because if not, you're going to take a massive pay cut just to go back to work. So I think there's a lot more negative news that we have to go through and we're going to see before things get better. But as a buyer, like I said, the first thing you got to take a look at is, do I have job stability right now? And if the answer is no, then you're not ready to buy. You got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of your family first before you start to go and spend money on trying to buy a house. The house will always be there. Take care of your house first before you start worrying about putting your money anywhere else. And another thing that we're starting to see move quickly is interest rates. We know that interest rates has been the talk of the mortgage industry for the last 9 months. Ever since June or July of 2022, when rates doubled, that's all everyone talks about. Rates were 6%, 7%. And this week with the SVP bank closure, rates dropped a half a point in a day. And then they started climbing back up the next day. So it's one of those things, and I've always said this on my channel, you cannot time the market. You cannot time when you're going to get the best rate possible. That doesn't exist. There's so many other factors that have to take place in order for you to make that happen. So when you're shopping for your home loan, when you're shopping for a lender right now, shop for strategy, shop for responsiveness, shop for education. Because a lender that can do all three of those things is going to be a lender that's going to put you into the best spot to close on your house. Now, if you're working with someone and let's say they take 2 days to get back to you, what if you wanted to lock on the day that rates dropped a 0.5%? If they didn't call you back, you totally lost out on the deal. So make sure you're working with someone that's going to be responsive, because the market's moving fast and you need to be able to move just as fast to keep up with the changes. One other thing that still might be a play in today's market is you could look at buying a new build home, because these builders do not want any of their homes sitting stagnant. If they have any sort of standing inventory, which is a home that basically fell out of contract, or maybe the buyer backed out and it's already done, it's already built, they can close on the house in 30 days, you might be able to negotiate an even deeper discount. And I'm still hearing the builders willing to pay for closing costs and credits and all that other good stuff. So if you're tight on cash, or you're looking for ways to maybe get a lower interest rate, because a lot of these big national new home builders, they pre-bought interest rates at a certain rate. So they are still offering sometimes 4 or 5%, which most lenders today can't touch unless they're charging you a bunch of points to get there. So that might be another way and another strategy to get a lower rate, lower payment, so that way you can get into your home in 2023. Now, I know some of this might sound like doom and gloom, and if you know me, that's not how I roll. That's not even what I like to think about, but I'm just giving you the latest of what we're seeing on our side here in the industry. But here's some good news. According to Redfin, they recently did some statistics looking at 45.5% of home sales recorded by Redfin agents during the 3 months ending in February 28th. 45% of those homes that sold had a concession. So if you're a home buyer right now, and this is something, again, we've been talking about this since last year, now's the time to get into the market, simply because these sellers are willing to negotiate. You don't have a better time than right now to take advantage of the sellers when their home's not sitting on the market. So depending on where you're looking to buy, you still might be able to negotiate down on the price, get them to pay your closing costs, and really come out of pocket with maybe just your down payment to get the deal done. On the flip side, we have other parts of the country where I'm also hearing that there are multiple offer situations again. One of my top realtors I work with here in Las Vegas, his mother-in-law wanted to buy a house that was about $515,000. She was willing to pay cash, but someone offered $525,000. Then she came back and offered $535,000. And then the other party came back and offered $540,000, and then they closed on the deal at $540,000. So even at the $500,000 price range, someone willing to pay all cash, they're willing to go above and beyond what the house was listed at. So again, a lot of these statistics and market conditions are going to be based on your geographical location. Not everywhere in the country is seeing the same thing. However, if you're thinking about moving, that's why you definitely should reach out to a real estate agent who's local to the market, so they can give you the latest stats and what they're seeing. That way you're not making a decision based on what your current city or location is based on, because you could move across the country and what if the market's slow? Now you got all the negotiating power in the world to come in there and get a deal done. So you just got to know the market conditions if you're thinking about moving. And I think as fast as the market is shifting right now, you as a buyer, you have to be willing to do the same thing, because if rates go up 0.25%, that could affect your DTI. That could totally affect you qualifying for a loan. Shoot, in fact, you might not even qualify for the loan anymore. You have to be quick on your feet, and so does your loan officer. You should be working in tandem, especially in today's market, because again, if you got pre-approved at 6%, and let's say the market moved to 6.5%, and you were at the top end of your DTI, you could easily fall out of a deal simply because your loan officer wasn't keeping up with how fast the market was. So if I were you, I would make sure that I'm touching base with my loan officer weekly. If I know I'm going to go out this weekend and I'm going to go look at some houses, I would make sure I talk to them on a Thursday. Say, hey, I'm going to go look at maybe these 3 or 4 houses. Can I still qualify for these payments? What do my payments look like? Any good loan officer will be able to do a mortgage refresh and give you an idea of exactly what those payments are and still make sure that you are good to go. So this might be a little unconventional in the sense that normally once you start shopping, you never really talk to your loan officer, or a lot of loan officers kind of check out, to be honest. But I think in this market, you definitely want to be talking weekly, so there's nothing that falls through the cracks, because let's say you do get your offer accepted. Nothing is more devastating to know that when you go through underwriting, the loan officer then comes back to you and say you don't qualify for the loan because your DTI is too high. So you either need to put more money down, pay off more debt, get a cosigner, or the deal's going to fall apart. And I'm telling you right now, this is happening more and more. I just had 2 deals from 2 big builders that fell out that came over to my team, and now we're going to save those deals for them. So experience, strategy is going to play a part in this market. Remember this, whenever there's chaos, there's always opportunity. So if we look at this market and the fact that it's moving super fast as far as interest rates are going, with inventory and just the overall economy, you have to be nimble yourself. And if you don't know where to start, the first thing I always recommend is getting pre-approved. And this is where my team can help you get across the finish line. You can simply book a call with me, start the application online, and in 3 easy steps, we can get you approved to start shopping for your home. It's that easy. And we can break out scenarios and options for you to be able to buy. But remember, inventory is down, prices have been going up. I don't see where the crash is going to happen unless something breaks the economy. But I think with the reputation that the government has had lately, they are very willing to print and spend money, which only drives interest rates up because inflation is going to continue to run rampant and it's going to be a prolonged issue. We have to get this stuff under wraps before interest rates just continue to skyrocket, which makes housing that much more unaffordable and unattainable for many people out there. So if you're on the fence, I think you've got to start moving now, because if for some reason we start to see the Fed pull back on raising rates, maybe they pause and rates start to come back down, you want to be able to get in the market and be in the market so you can take advantage of that time. If you wait for the news to come out and say, hey, today rates dropped 0.5%, and then you call a loan officer, then you want to start shopping, you're going to miss the boat. So you got to get ahead of the curve as much as you can so you can take advantage of how fast this market is moving and be a winner. Thanks for watching. Share this with a friend, and I'll see you on the next video.